Good evening, everyone. Let the record show that all members of the City Council are present this evening. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the meeting room and is accessible to the public at any time during the course of this meeting. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. First is item A, approve agenda as submitted. Item B, receive and place on file all notices pertaining to this meeting. Item C, receive and place on file all materials having any bearing on this meeting. Item D, approval of minutes of regular meeting on July 20th, 2020 as on file in the City Clerk's office. Item E, approval of Treasurer's report of claims in the amount of $94,948.25. And item F, approval of Boswell report of claims in the amount of $4,419.80. Is there any item that any council member wants removed from the consent agenda? Anyone from the public? Mr. Clabaugh?
I move that the items listed under the consent agenda be approved, accepted, and are ratified as presented.
Second.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by Morgan, that all items listed under the consent agenda be approved. Your vote, please. And that is approved 8-0. Next is a public hearing concerning an application to the Nebraska Department of Economic Development for a community development block grant in the amount of $400,000 in order to develop 3 baseball-softball fields on property owned by the Beatrice Mary Family YMCA.
So one of the first grants we're applying for tonight, again, Community Development Block Grant. Those are CDBG funds. What we're looking for in this one is a tourism grant. We have not applied before for a tourism grant, but this one would be for 3 new ball fields at the YMCA property. We've talked to them and they've been in agreement on this particular project. What we look for is, if you've been out there, they have 2 T-ball fields today. The one that's closer to the building on the north side, that would stay. To give them room and the chance that they would ever extend their building to the south. The south T-ball field would get reworked and redeveloped into would be 12 and under baseball or softball field. It can go either way based upon size dimension. And then south of the trail or the exit that they have there on their property, you have the trail, and then south of the trail would be the 2 other fields. What we initially planned was on the east side of that would be another softball field and baseball for 12 and under, and on the other side would be a large baseball field. What you're looking for there would be baseball for boys 13 and older, much like number 5 at Scott Street Ball Fields, which is the bigger field that's down at Scott Street. That's the one that gets flooded first every time. So that's what we're looking for in this particular grant, is to build those fields and then any amenities that we might be able to afford at that time, just depending on how project costs come in.
Ted?
Okay, a couple of questions. Don't have any problem with the plan of it, but I've been over there. My kids play T-ball on there, so it's been quite a while. But how far south does the Wise property actually go?
So if you're there, there's a field that's developed,
Right.
a field,
Yeah,
a crop field.
Yeah, I went over to look at it.
That's the YMCA's, and I believe it goes a little bit further south of that yet. I think there's some pasture ground in there.
Okay, I just wondered if their property lined up with the Flowing Springs street that comes through there.
No, it does not go that far down. No.
Okay, so I think I know where it ends. So my other question is, eventually we're going to have to develop 19th Street to that. We're going to have to pave it, we're going to have to widen it, we're going to have to put curb and gutter in that. How is that going to affect this?
So these fields will be set back far enough from the road so that when that development would go through, you would not have to then try to move the field. And so we are trying to have a little forethought and make sure you set it up for those future plans.
Okay, then I don't have a problem with it.
Anyone else? Rick?
This is the first of 3 CDBG grants. Are they different enough that won't affect us receiving the grant money on 80? Are they
Yes, so
different
all 3,
enough that?
they're all different. They all do different things, and they all go to different applications. So there's different pots of money that are available. So yes, you're not penalized by applying for more than one particular grant at a time.
Were you just going to try to
Rich.
pick your favorite?
Who's going to own these ball fields?
These ball fields would be They'd be owned by the city. We'd have a lease agreement with the YMCA, much like we do with Prairie Playground today. The playground out there is owned by the city, but it's on YMCA property. We have a lease that says we maintain it. I don't think it's a 20-year lease is what we have for the playground.
We'll maintain it, and PTOT will take care of it.
Correct.
And we will have control of it. I mean, the Y won't be able to walk in and say, we've got a ball tournament and we're going to use this.
No, obviously we'll work with the YMCA. They were playing tonight when I was coming to the office. They had T-ball going on back there. So we'll work with them, make sure they can use those fields for their event activities. But yes, when it comes time for especially weekends and then for ball team practices, we'll make sure that we have some scheduling opportunities.
We have to match that with 100,000, correct?
Correct.
And is the YMCA going to put anything into that 100,000?
No. We've not asked the YMCA to donate any money. We are looking at other avenues for our match.
Well, we're putting in 3 more ball diamonds, and we've got quite a few ball diamonds, and I'm not saying we probably don't need them, but it kind of galls me that years ago we tore out a ball diamond at Riverside because we didn't need it. And the one in Chautauqua is so dilapidated, we haven't taken care of it, that it can't be used anymore. And there were 2 ball diamonds. Now we're coming back and building 3 more.
So
And I think the $100,000 could be used elsewhere, just a little bit easier. I've been asking for a bathroom down at the West Scotland's on the east side of Center Street for years, and we don't have the money, but we got enough money to develop 3 more ball fields. And I just don't, and putting stuff on other people's property that we don't have control of doesn't set with me too well.
The ball field at Riverside, if you recall, in the flood of 2015 was damaged. The fence needed to be removed, and at that point, nobody had played or practiced on that field for a number of years.
No, that's not right, because I live and I can see down to where Riverside was, and there was practices and ball games going on all the time. So we're not going to revisit that, because I told you when you tore that out that was not the case.
And the ball field at Chautauqua Park had not been used for a number of years either. After the 2015 flood, in fact, had not been cleaned up. And it remained in that state for about 5 years before we finally removed it this year. Both of those diamonds were in floodplain, and we ended up with the same issues. The benefit of these 3 fields is they would be out of the floodplain, and so you would eliminate that problem going forward.
Joe?
Well, I'm going to vote against it. I'm sorry.
Joe?
There's bathrooms out there at the Y right now?
Correct.
Okay. Who owns those?
The YMCA owns those bathrooms.
Would it be smart to put in extra bathrooms with these down the road, or do you think that'll service all the ball diamonds out there?
Not until I get mine.
The bathroom at the YMCA, obviously that would be part of the agreement that we look to make sure that those things are available. Also, concession stand there already on site that would be utilized as part of that agreement in this project. Initially, you would look just to use those bathrooms. I think there might be more facilities there than are currently at Hannibal, and then depending on need and determination of this council moving forward, you might look to add something there, or you may just look to put bathroom facilities at other locations.
Isn't there bathrooms at the Center Street?
Any other questions? Anyone from the public? Mr. Clabaugh?
I move that the public hearing be closed at 7:08 p.m.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by Morgan, that the public hearing be closed at 7:08 p.m. Your vote, please. That is approved 8-0. Next is a public hearing concerning an application to the Nebraska Department of Economic Development for a community development block grant in the amount of $400,000 for the revitalization and improvement of the downtown area.
So this would be another downtown revitalization grant, or DTR grant. We finished our last one up here just a couple of years ago. In that one, you did facade improvement. With this one, we're looking to handle more life safety issues. They've kind of changed the scoring on us a little bit. So code enforcement of life safety issues, those are the types of things that score a little higher. And so that's what we're focusing on at this point. So we'd be looking at second floor living units that need fire exits, buildings that need elevators would be an option. Hollow sidewalks downtown would be another option. But you start looking at those types of life safety issues would be things that we would look to address with this particular grant, again, in the downtown area. It too calls for a $100,000 match. I would imagine that if it was successful, we'd look to do something similar that we did before, where you ask the property owners to make their match in these grants.
Questions? Anyone from the public? Rick?
I move the public hearing be closed at 7:10 PM.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by Cook, that the public hearing be closed at, what did you say, 7:10 PM?
7:10.
Your vote, please. That is approved, 8-0. Thirdly, a public hearing concerning an application to the Nebraska Department of Economic Development for a Community Development Block Grant in the amount of $50,000 for a planning study of parking and the flow of vehicle and pedestrian traffic in Beatrice's downtown.
This one kind of started a couple of years ago. Main Street approached us about the possibility of maybe changing some parking in the downtown area, trying to maybe add some more diagonal parking in. As we started to examine that possibility, we thought it might be best kind of take a step back, look at a holistic approach throughout the downtown area as what could we do, what works best, how you make sure the flow of traffic and pedestrians continues to work in the downtown, and then also what types of streetscape stuff can you start to add and develop throughout the downtown. So that's what this study would look for. One thing we would look to do is not necessarily design every street, but you maybe look to start to have elements that you could then incorporate as you redo streets throughout the downtown. Maybe it's bump outs, maybe it's planters, maybe it's something else, whatever those kind of things come up to be. But that's what this grant would look to do, is do that study first, so you can at least get some ideas of how things would work moving forward.
How many of these studies have we had over the years? Didn't we just do one here, not when we did Fifth Street, and maybe another one prior to that and one after that? And we've had, how many, 6 of them?
I think 6.
And it never does anything. We've never acted on it after we've spent the money. And you're looking at 50,000 from the deal, and what's our 200 and, how much?
25.
Okay, $25,000 more. I mean, I just think, to me, this is just a waste of money.
So your first, if you remember back in the old days when you did downtown revitalization grants, you had to do a planning grant first and then follow that up with actual money to do a particular project. So you did a planning grant and then you did Fifth Street. You did a planning grant and then you did the facade improvement program. No longer required to do the planning grants, so that requirement has gone away. But it still doesn't mean that we don't have a need to do some other studies to look at things. What we don't want to do is start a project and 4th Street turns out great, but then you go to 3rd Street and it doesn't work, or no longer those elements kind of make sense. And we're trying to make sure we have a plan altogether before we get started.
Can't we look back on some of those that we haven't used over the years?
You can, and we certainly will, and we'll look at those as we do this study, but things have changed, and we got to make sure that we keep it current.
Stan?
Ted?
Well, there's a very big part of me that wants to vote against this as well. In my tenure here, I believe that we've done at least 6 of these studies in downtown. I might be wrong. It could be only 4, but we've done a lot. I've asked this body to implement some part or all of those at least 4 or 5 different times, and I've gotten nowhere. It's only our fault that we haven't made these improvements. It's only our fault as a body that we haven't taken what information has been given us in these grants, applications, and this process, and implemented those things to improve our downtown. I don't necessarily, I've told people many, many times that the hardest decisions that I have to make here are the ones that I don't personally agree with, and I would suggest that we apply for the block grant, take the study, take the information, and agree with it or not personally, vote for it and make these improvements in downtown Beatrice. So, I really came here tonight with the intention of voting against this, because I like Rich, say, yeah, this is just another money spent that we're not going to utilize. But let's, you know, if not now, when? So I would urge you all to vote for it. I would urge you all to take part in it. And when they give us the recommendation, vote to make those recommendations part of the plan.
Rick?
Michael, how's this different than the other ones then? Can you come up and tell us, please?
Yep. Michael Sothan, Main Street, Beatrice, and I guess before I answer your question, Rick, I mean, you guys are both right in the frustration of not fully implemented plans, but I will say that the reason that we were requesting this plan is because when we've looked at some of our past plans, there's elements of this in there, but those plans never fully address some of the needs that we currently have. They kind of give little snapshots of what maybe some things we should consider. But when I've sat down with Tobias and James and we've actually tried to maybe look at implementing those in this last couple of years, James has told us there's really not enough detail in that for him to really be able to utilize. At the same time, what we're asking for in this plan is going beyond just diagonal parking or a little bit of beautification. It's really trying to put a full plan together that has multiple aspects of it there, that is talking about the pedestrian side of things, is talking about the traffic, is talking about the aesthetic. The closest we got to that was maybe that 2010, 2011 plan, but again, it didn't go that in depth. At the same time, you know, it's one of those things. Main Street Beatrice actually commissioned its own streetscape plan back in the late 1990s. Unfortunately, that plan did result in a few things. It resulted in Trailhead Park. It resulted in some of the downtown bump outs. But then it really didn't get any further. And so the last plan that goes anything into this realm was done in the late 1990s. And frankly, a lot's changed in the last more than 20 years that we need to try to address as a community. And so I agree with you full-heartedly, Ted, that if we do this, we need to find a way to implement it, even if there's parts of it that we don't
Personally agree with.
I mean, obviously we need to be able to provide enough input to the consultants, whoever in the world it ends up being, so that way, hopefully it is something that, for the most part, we do agree with. But at the same time, there's a reason that we're going to try to bring some people in. When we have visitors coming into this town, they see a very pretty, a very wonderful town. But yet, once they actually start walking, we're a little bit of a harsh town. There's a lot of concrete. There's a lot of those things. It doesn't necessarily complement the beauty of the architecture, some of the things that have been going on recently with the properties. And this will hopefully give us an opportunity to be more efficient with the spending of our dollars. Just this year, we've spent $650,000 on mill and overlay projects downtown that, frankly, we could have paired some of these types of improvements that would come out of this with that would make that spending more efficient for long-term use in the community. And we haven't had that opportunity because we don't have a plan that tells us what we can put there.
Stan?
Mr. Kerr?
I have to agree with Ted on this, but Ted made that same speech 3 or 4 times.
At least.
You and your predecessors, I've heard the same thing from you and your predecessors. And then again, well, we're going to do it this time. This time it's going to happen. There were snapshots of stuff that didn't happen, but this time it's going to happen. It never happened.
Yep.
So here we're going to spend another $75,000.
And frankly,
it won't happen.
We've been asking for this, but we've been told that this is something that we need. So, it's one of those things where we
But
do.
it falls
We
through
wanna
the
see
cracks,
something happen.
Mike. It falls through the cracks. It always has. And I haven't seen any. So the rest of the guys can do what they want to, but I'm going to vote no and save $25,000 for the taxpayers.
And frankly, I definitely, again, I fully agree with you, but for us, we've been asking to try to do this for.
No, you don't
multiple
agree
years.
with me, Mike, because if you did, you wouldn't want the money, because I don't want to spend the money, so you don't fully agree
Well,
with me.
I guess maybe not fully, but I definitely agree with you in principle, because yes, the inability to get these things done with what we've already got has been very frustrating. I definitely agree with you on that part.
Well, it's been 20 years I've been on this. We've been doing it for 20-some years. And
Mr.
nothing gets
Catlin?
done.
Oh, Mayor, I think something that got overlooked here is that over the last X amount of years, whenever these plans have come up, one of the biggest factors we never had the funding to go forward with a lot of those. So I think before you throw the baby out with the bathwater, it's one of the things you gotta look at, because a lot of those projects, we just flat didn't have the money to go forward on. Or at that time, maybe the means or the desire to go forward, whatever the fact, but I'll take dollars.
One more comment. David, I agree with you, but and one of the things that played into this for me was the fire station being built basically downtown. So we're making a it's collectively as a city, in the community, we're making a multi-million-dollar investment in our downtown. It's a nice jumping off spot. So I agree with you.
Anyone else? Anyone from the public? Mr. Clabaugh.
I move that public hearing be closed at 7:20 PM.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by Cook, that the public hearing be closed at 7:20 PM. Your vote, please. That is approved. 7 in favor and 1 no, and that is Mr. Kerr. Next is resolution number 6591, authorizing application for a grant from the Nebraska Department of Economic Development for a community development block grant in order to develop 3 baseball softball fields on property owned by the Beatrice Mary Family YMCA.
I move that resolution number 6591 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by Billesbach, that resolution number 6591 be passed and adopted. Any further discussion required, gentlemen? Anyone from the public? And your vote, please. And that is approved 7-1, with Kerr voting no. Resolution number 6591 has been approved. Next is resolution number 6592, authorizing application for a grant from the Nebraska Department of Economic Development for a community development block grant for the revitalization and improvement of the downtown area.
I move that resolution number 6592 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by McLean, that resolution number 6592 be passed and adopted. Any other discussion, gentlemen? Anyone from the public? And your vote, please. And that is approved 8-0. Resolution 6592 has been passed and adopted. Next is resolution number 6593, authorizing application for a grant from the Nebraska Department of Economic Development for a community development block grant for a planning study of parking and the flow of vehicle and pedestrian traffic in Beatrice's downtown.
I move that resolution number 6593 be passed and adopted.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by Cook, that resolution number 6593 be passed and adopted. Any more discussion from the public? And your vote, please. That is approved 7-1, with Kerr voting no. Resolution number 6593 has been passed and adopted. Next is a resolution number 6594, establishing the final allocation for levy authority for property taxes for the Airport Authority for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2021.
I move that resolution number 6594 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by Kerr, that resolution 6594 be passed and adopted. Tobias?
Again, just as a reminder, the airport authority is an unelected body, but they have to come before this body for their levy to be approved every year. Diane, is there anything you want to say about your budget or your levy that you're asking for this year?
Nothing really, not, unless somebody has any questions or.
There's really no increases.
No?
No, we have no increases.
Levy doesn't change, so.
Unless you have a question.
Questions, anyone? Seeing none, your vote, please. And that is approved 8-0. Resolution 6494 has been passed and adopted. Next is resolution number 6595, executing work order number 2 between RDG Geoscience and Engineering Incorporated and the city, wherein RDG shall perform compliance monitoring and reporting for the former manufactured gas plant site in accordance with the final amended operation and maintenance plan.
I move that resolution number 6595 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by Billesbach, that resolution 6595 be passed and adopted. Tobias?
Yes, for the gift that just keeps on giving. So the gas plant at First and Market Street, I recall we've gone through a 10-year process of studying it and getting it cleaned up, and we're in the final stages now. But as part of our covenants on the ground with, is it NDEE now? No, that's not right. NDEE, there we go. We have to go out and monitor this site annually. So one of the things you have to go look for, you have to make sure the grass is growing, or that the trees are doing all right, or that there's been nothing dumped on the site, or there's been no erosion along the creek or along the riverbed. If you recall that right around the river's edge there was some contamination that was left, it wasn't hauled off. You have to make sure that that's not getting out into the river. So there's some technical things you have to be able to look for here as this thing moves forward. In doing so, we thought it was best to retain the services of RDG, Geoscience and Engineering, to help us with that, or those inspections, at least to start with initially, and then make those reports off to the state to ensure that we're in compliance as we get started with this project. The first agreement here, it's for a couple of years worth of monitoring. Ultimately, you're on the hook for doing this for the next 30 plus years.
Questions?
What's that cost us every year,
A
Toby?
little over $5,000, isn't it?
$5,000 for the first 5 years. Now, it's based upon time and materials. So if it takes them 2 hours, they bill you for 2 hours. If it takes them an hour to do the work, but their estimates are going to be that $5,000 over the course of 5 years.
We gotta do it. I mean, we don't have a choice.
That's not something that we can do in-house or with staff.
Eventually, you might be able to if we get guys trained up and know what we're supposed to look for. But again, initially, it's nothing that we've done in the past, and so we're not comfortable making those first kind of.
It's beyond our skill set at this time.
At this time, it is. So let's bring some experts in and have them help us. And I just want to make sure I'm clear. It's $5,025 per year is what they anticipate the inspections will be.
Any other questions? Anything from the public? And your vote, please. And that is approved 8-0. Resolution number 6595 has been passed and adopted. Next is Resolution 6596, executing a contract for sale of real estate to Jonathan M. Davis.
I move that resolution number 6596 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by McLean, that resolution number 6596 be passed and adopted.
If you recall, we had the public hearing on this particular property a couple of weeks ago at this point. Mr. Davis's property is at 113 South LaSalle Street. It was damaged in a storm, roughly 2005, maybe 2017, somewhere in that ballpark. Initially, he had hired his own contractor to do demolition work. They did not finish the job. The city had to come in and finish demolition. We then therefore incurred some cost on the project. As part of our agreement in here, essentially he's willing to pay the back taxes and the liens that are on the property to make sure we get clean title, and then he would deed the property to us in lieu of his payments that he owes us, which I believe is about $4,500 is what we have outstanding with him. What will we do with the lot at that point? Most likely you're looking to turn it into a mow-to-own lot as probably the project or program you look to put this lot into moving forward.
You said
Mow-to-own?
I thought you said motor home. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm getting old, Tobe. I'm getting old.
Any other questions about a motorhome?
Rich, I heard the same thing. I thought he said
I did. I thought he
It's your
said
mask.
motor home.
It's not the first time I've been told that I need to pronunciate more, so I'll work on it.
Any questions? Anyone from the public? And your vote, please. That is approved 8-0. Resolution 6596 has been passed and adopted. Next, item G, resolution number 6590, authorizing the mayor, city administrator, and the city clerk to sign the sub-recipient disaster grant agreement for federally declared disaster number 4521 between the city of Beatrice, Nebraska, and the state of Nebraska on behalf of the city of Beatrice.
I move that resolution number 6590 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by Billesbach, that resolution number 6590 be passed and adopted.
So this has to deal with COVID. As part of the ongoing response to COVID, FEMA has asked NEMA to have declarations of emergencies declared. So NEMA has then asked us to declare an emergency. And so the resolution you have before you tonight would have the city declaring such an emergency. What this basically opens up is your availability to receive federal dollars, if you would so be inclined. We're still working through that process, but at least you got to declare the emergency first to make them available to see whether or not you would be able to receive any.
And some of those grant funding dollars would cover what?
Probably most likely PPE, which is personal protective equipment. You might be able to get some overtime hours in there if we have some, but the big one is probably going to be your PPE expenses. So again, when the ambulance had to go out and respond during COVID, they had to wear additional protective equipment. That additional cost would be something you would look to maybe get reimbursed through this declaration.
Questions? From the public? All right, gentlemen, your vote, please. And that is approved 8-0. Resolution 6590 has been passed and approved. Next is an ordinance to amend Chapter 18, Article 2, Sections 18-17 of the Beatrice City Code regarding the composition of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I move that said ordinance be given number 20-028, the title thereof be approved, the rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by Kerr, that the ordinance be given number 20-028, the title thereof approved, the rules suspended, and the ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. A motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Your vote, please. And that is approved 8-0. Ordinance number 20-028 by number the first time. Ordinance number 20-028 by number the second time, and ordinance number 20-028 by number the third and final time.
I move that ordinance number 20-028 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by McLean, that ordinance number 20-028 be passed and approved. Tobias?
So we have some vacancies on the Planning and Zoning Commission while we were looking at possibilities of adding new members. We got looking, and what state statute had for membership on planning and zoning did not match what your city code had. Basically, in a short version, state statute allows you to have up to 2 individuals on planning and zoning that live outside the city limits. Your city code had it at 1. And so we thought what we'd ask you to do is amend the city code to allow you to have 2 people that could live outside the city limits, to just give you a broader base and maybe a bigger opportunity to bring some people onto that board.
Are you still going to try to keep them within the 2 miles?
They have to be within the 2 mile.
Okay.
Okay, that was my question.
Any other questions from the public? And your vote, please. And that is approved 8-0. Ordinance number 20-028 has been passed and adopted. Next is an ordinance to close and vacate all of Lot 5 and part of Lot 6, Teeman's 4th Edition, and all of Lot 2, Teeman's 5th Edition, to the city of Beatrice, Gage County, Nebraska.
I move that said ordinance be given number 20-029, the title thereof be approved, the rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by Cook. Morgan, which one was it? Cook. That the ordinance be given number 20-029, the title thereof approved, the rules suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. A motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Your vote, please. That is approved 8-0. Ordinance number 20-029 by number the first time, ordinance number 20-029 by number the second time, and ordinance number 029 by number the third and final time.
I move that ordinance number 20-029 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by Billesbach, that ordinance number 20-029 be passed and approved.
So this is the first of kind of a 2-step process. On your map there, you'll see what we're talking about here. North 25th Street, just north of 25th Street is Hannibal Park. So you've got the lots there in the red. The middle lot is the one that we're looking to vacate as those in the red. The middle lot is a vacant lot, and then the 2 properties owners on the north and south side are basically going to split that lot and each end up with half of it, assuming you approve the second plat coming through tonight. So first step is vacation, and then the second step is approve the plat. adding that lot to those houses that are already there.
Are they gonna continue their sidewalk?
I don't know the answer to that one.
Can you find out?
I can.
Because if they're gonna split that, obviously their sidewalk isn't completed because the lot is unimproved.
Correct.
Lot's gonna remain unimproved, but they're gonna divide it, but if it has curb and gutter on it, it's supposed to have sidewalk.
I will find out if that has been a part of any conversation. I've not been a part of these conversations, but I will certainly ask and see what we need to do.
It's not a piece that generally used, but it should have a sidewalk on it. Not a stumbling block to stop it. I was just questioning.
Any other questions? Gentlemen from the public? Mr. Clabaugh? I'm sorry.
Bill?
Vote, please. And that is approved 8-0. Ordinance number 20-029 has been passed and adopted. Next is an ordinance approving the plat of the Hartley and Agana First Edition to the City of Beatrice, Gage County, Nebraska.
I move that said ordinance be given number 20-030, the title thereof be approved, and rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by McLean, that the ordinance be given number 20-030, the title thereof approved, the rules be suspended, and the ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. Motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Your vote, please. That's approved 8-0. Ordinance number 20-030 by number the first time, ordinance number 20-030 by number the second time, and ordinance number 20-030 by number the third and final time.
I move that ordinance number 20-030 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by Kerr, that ordinance number 20-030 be passed and approved. Any further discussion needed, gentlemen?
The only thing I would add is planning and zoning recommended approval.
Okay. All right, your vote, please. And that is approved 8-0. Ordinance number 20-030 has been passed and approved. Next is the public forum. Purpose of the public forum is for the presentation of an item by the general public to the City Council for consideration at a later date. No discussion will be taken by the council at this time. Is there anything from the public for the public forum? We have no discussions or reports, and our next City Council meeting will be on August the 17th at 7 o'clock in these chambers. Mr. Clabaugh.
I move that the meeting be adjourned at 7:37 p.m.
Second.
Moved by Clabaugh, seconded by Billesbach, that the meeting be adjourned at 7:37 p.m. Your vote, please. That's approved 8-0. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.